hello to your LTC Regional Educational Technology Coordinators. Whether they're leading hands-on workshops or bringing tech teams together, the RETCs help schools and leaders stay ahead of the curve. With a knack for sharing top-notch resources and best practices, they make tech integration exciting and accessible. In the words of Ben, RETCs, we do everything. Let's welcome Emily, Eric, Lisa, Matt, and Ben. And I'm Linda, your webinar facilitator. I'll be behind the scenes making sure that everything runs smoothly, as well as interacting with you in the chat. So let's get started.
All right. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Hope you're doing well. Thank you to Linda for that wonderful introduction. My name is Ben Songroth, and I'm the lead regional EdTech coordinator for the LTC, and I'm happy to kick off this webinar with my amazing team of RETCs. And we are going to share some very exciting stuff for you that hopefully will give you some ideas on ways that you can start speeding up your tech to start the new year. So I'm going to kick us off, and my thing that I'm going to talk about for my short time that I have with you is artificial intelligence. And this is a theme you're going to hear, and you've probably been ingrained with this as well from tech companies and everything. And pretty much the entire world is talking about artificial intelligence. I know as RETC team, it's a lot of what we're doing right now. And so when Linda asked what I wanted to do, I said, let's talk about chatting with chatbots. So I titled this, How to Have a Proper Chat with AI Chatbots. And the two that I'm going to kind of focus on today as we go through our Gemini and ChatGPT. But the things that I'm going to talk about really apply to all AI tools in general. And so if you're interacting with Copilot, or you're interacting with Claude, or you're interacting with the chatbot Raina inside of Magic School, or using Brisk like Eric's going to talk about, these rules really apply for all of that. But a majority of my focus is going to be spent on the two that I spend a lot of time in, and that's Gemini and ChatGPT. And even then, I'm probably going to lean towards Gemini a little bit more, just because I'm a Google guy, and that's kind of where my use has gone the most. And I think there's a lot of integration that teachers that are with Google schools can go. But like I said, if you are using another tool, the same principles apply. And so why I chose this and talked about how to have a proper chat with this lightning hacks is I want to really focus in on letting people know that to get the most out of your AI tools, you really need to understand how to craft a prompt effectively. And so when we use these AI tools, no matter what it is, it's all about the prompt in order to get the most out of the chatbot. And sure, we can even do things like ask ChatGPT or ask Gemini, what are good prompts in order to get a response? But that's another step. And so what I like to do is help people understand, how do we get the most out of this? And I think what I've come down to when I've done my talking to people and I've really, really honed in on my own use of this, I've come up with three main things when it comes to getting the most out of your chats with these chatbots. And that is, when we ask them a question, we want to focus in on, are we asking it the right question? And are we asking it the right prompt? So it doesn't have to be a question. You can tell it to do things. You can have it create things. But we want to make sure we apply the right things in those prompts in order to get the most out of them. So these chatbots, what they are designed to do is to give us information from their database. So they're designed to take things that they have been trained on, put them together, and formulate them into a thought to give back to us based on the response that, or the prompt that we give them. This is where we actually have a crossroads, I think, between AI integration with humans and then humans being able to talk to other humans. And I try to make this connection in all my workshops that I do. And this is really the main hack out of this, is if you ask the chatbot a proper prompt with context, specificity, and structure, you get a very good answer back. Just like when you are talking to another human, if you ask them a question and you provide context and specificity and maybe a little bit of structure, you get a better response from that human. And so when we talk about these hacks, we want to talk about adding in those three things into our questions or our prompts and our tasks that we ask this artificial intelligence to do. Just like when we want a human to do something well, we give them an appropriate question. When I asked my 7th grader, how was school today? He says, good, because it's a question that could be answered with one word. If I try to make it more complex by saying, how was school today, buddy? You can't say good, and you need to tell me something outside of recess and lunch that you enjoyed doing. I'm going to get a better response from him most of the time. He's not a very good chatbot. But that's my main lightning hack here, is that I want to make sure that people come out of this with the idea that we are adding context, specificity, and structure to our prompts in our chatbots. So for example, and I'm going to go ahead and back out of this, the example I love to use in all of my workshops here is if I type in a prompt like, I need a lesson on the causes of the Civil War. This is a prompt that if I went across the hall, if Eric is teaching history across the hall from me, he's going to know what I want. But if I type this in, this is a bad prompt into a chatbot, because what Gemini gives me is a lesson, teaches me a lesson on the causes of the Civil War. And if I go back to my slides, that's because I didn't provide any context, I didn't provide any specificity, and I didn't provide any structure to my prompt. I simply said, I need a lesson on the causes of the Civil War, and it gave me a lesson. Now, if I get just a slight bit more specific on that by saying a lesson plan, because while these chatbots are really good at understanding humans and what we want, they don't speak human teacher slang. To human teachers, lesson equals lesson plan. To a chatbot, a lesson equals teach me something. So if I change that one word and we go to update, now we get a lesson plan on the causes of the Civil War. However, you'll notice that it's still lacking in my principles of context, specificity, and structure. Therefore, I want to make sure I go back and I'm going to re-prompt this again. And I'm going to add in now, I need a lesson plan for a 11th grade US history class. Keep it to 45 minutes using Illinois teaching standards. And now I get a much more dynamic response from the chatbot. And so as we're doing this, I want to make sure my biggest lightning hack here to you all is that when you are prompting these chatbots, when you're using them for the first time, you're really honing in on using that context, specificity, and structure. And that's still a very basic prompt for a lesson plan. I could have included things like create a class project or allow the students to use inquiry. Give me some sources that my students can explore. And we're going to dig in and dive deeper with that. But it's all about that context, specificity, and structure. Now, as I move on here, I do want to point out a couple of features inside of Gemini, though, that are really cool. And again, ChatGPT does some of these as well, as Claude and Copilot do too. But I wanted to point out just a couple of these that I think are really neat. And I'll kind of go through and you can see these. But the biggest one for me when we use Gemini, if you are especially at Google School, is I can take that, whatever response Gemini gives me, and I can use this little share link down here, and I can have the option to export that to Google Docs or draft it into Gmail. So one of my examples is also when I'm using Gemini is that I can have my chatbot create an email response for me. And in this case, I have a parent email here that might be expressing some frustration that her son Johnny is not getting appropriate amount of playing time. And so I can craft my own response here, telling Mama Football how I really feel about Johnny, but I'm going to ask the chatbot to adjust my email to be a little more sincere and less direct. But you'll notice in my prompt, I gave it the email and then I gave it my response, but then it was able to craft an email that was better suited. So now I could actually take that, go down here to share and export, draft it in Gmail, and then open that up in Gmail and send that directly to Mama Football. Now, I do want to point out, it's important we don't share PII or personally identifiable information in our prompts to our chatbots, because while Gemini says it's not collecting data on us, we just want to be sure. You also want to make sure you change the subject and you want to read through the thing that it gives you, because you don't want to put the first line of the email to be, here's a revised email that maintains your stance while expressing more empathy and less directness. Not something you want to send to Mama Football. So one of those really cool, I think, examples of how Gemini interconnects through the entire Google space. Another couple of things here. Gemini also allows you to fact check using a Google search its responses. We can't always trust what the AI creates. So this is a way for us to go through and ask it to double check itself against a Google search. So that's really helpful in maintaining that we get accurate information back in our AI responses. So again, another quick hack to make sure that what the AI is giving us is appropriate. And then another thing that I really like about Gemini, and ChatGPT does this as well, is that it has a read aloud or a listen function when I can go in and I can ask it to read what I have. So one of my other hacks is that you can prompt ChatGPT to be a person or a historical figure or literary figure. If it's been trained on its data, it knows how to respond as such. So in this example here, I have asked it to be Edgar Allan Poe, and then a question of how did you get into writing? And then you'll notice it says, the genesis of my literary journey. It responds as if it's Edgar Allan Poe. And if I want my students to hear that, I can click listen and it will have it read through my speakers of my classroom. Now, it does not sound like Poe, but it is a cool way that your kids could interact back and forth with Gemini. So that's a couple of the features of the free version. I do have access to Gemini Advanced or Gemini Alpha. And so I did want to point out a couple of those. Now, I will put the caveat on there of it is $20 per month. So it is not a cheap use or a cheap expense to have the access to some of these features, but I did want to show them because I think they are pretty neat and they are useful. For example, in Gemini with the advanced feature, I have the ability to upload images, files, and even things from my Google Drive and have Gemini analyze those for key takeaways, points, summaries. It is really cool that we're able to do that. You also have the ability to use Gemini to help you write directly into a Google Doc or other Google tools. So instead of having to go to Gemini, I can just simply open this up and put it into my Google Doc directly. And then inside of Google Slides, I can go up here to Gemini and I can have it create a slide. I can create a pitch. I can have it summarize the content in there as well. So there's a lot of really cool things that Gemini Advanced allows us to do that I think are really helpful. I do want to point out a couple of things that ChatGPT does that I think are neat. The ChatGPT app talks to you back and forth. I think that's fascinating and really cool. And ChatGPT also connects to your Google Drive to do some of those analyzations of documents. What I'll say about that is you only get a few for free. You only get a certain data limit, so you can't do much with it. I'm at my time, but I do want to point out, and Linda has my slides. She can drop them in the chat. I have some examples here that you can use and you can see, but Emily did point this out, and there is a cool thing now, and this is some artificial intelligence directly in Google Slides. You can right-click on an image in your Google slide and hit remove background, and with just a couple of seconds, you can take any image that you put into Google Slides, and using artificial intelligence, it will remove the background. And now you have a background remover directly in Google Slides, which is pretty cool. So that's a quick hack for me to end on. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to the very intelligent and talented Eric Santos, as he is going to continue on an AI journey with you. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, sir. And I would say artificially intelligent and naturally intelligent, hopefully, because I'm going to be continuing on that AI train that you started for us. And in this case, though, instead of talking specifically about chatbots and large language models in general that you can query for anything, I'm going to show you a few tools that are based on AI technology, but are specifically tailored towards the needs of teachers. And those three tools are going to be Magic School, Diffit, and Curipod. So the first is going to be Magic School. And if you've never heard of it, it is definitely worth checking out. Magic School essentially takes the dozens of amazing things that you could do with a chatbot, like the ones that Ben described and demonstrated, and it chunks the specific prompts that you might give that bot into easy to click buttons that do specialized tasks. So you don't have to be as adept at prompting. Now, if you followed Ben, then you're now pretty much an expert at prompting. But if you'd like to fast track, you can use any of the different built-in tools. And as you can see, they have everything from lesson plan creators to text levelers to text proofreaders to unit plan generators and so on. Well, you can favorite any of these different built-in tools if you'd like, and they will pop up to your top of your screen in your favorites area so that you can get them in the order that you like so that you can quickly access what you're looking for. I'll do a couple of demonstrations of what they look like just so you get accustomed to what you can do. So first of all, this is one of my favorites, YouTube video questions. So I'm going to click on that. And if you've got a YouTube video that you want to show to your students, all you've got to do is grab the URL of that YouTube video. And assuming it has a transcript, what it'll do is it will take the number of questions that you asked for, as well as the type of question and the grade level you asked for. And it'll take that transcript from the video, and it'll quickly analyze it and generate multiple choice or whatever kind of questions you'd like based on that video. As you can see, it did that in almost an instant. And now that was actually a solar system video that it just generated questions for, along with 4 possible answers. And of course, don't worry, gives you the answer key at the end and the timestamp where you can find that answer. It's a good time to point out that with this and any AI-based tool, it's always important that you do a quick check of accuracy. And so make sure that just like, you wouldn't just grab something off the internet, copy it, throw it in front of your students without checking it. Anything that AI produces, you want to make sure you do an accuracy check. And so you have the ability to quickly do that right there. So that's one example of what it can do. Another example you might like is the depth of knowledge questions. There's another great one. So you can tell it a grade level, and you can give it a standard, an objective. You can speak to it using the microphone tool, or if you have a lesson material that you want to upload as an attachment, you can do that as well. Or you can just type right into it. So I might say something like causes of World War II, and I put it at the 10th grade level. And what it's going to do is it's going to generate some depth of knowledge questions at the different DOK levels on that topic. So just like that, it was able to create some DOK 1, level 1 questions all the way up to DOK 4. Okay, now you're not limited to just what it's talking about there. You can always hit the edit button, and you can manually edit any of the things that it produced so that you can get it tailored to exactly what you need. And you can also use the action buttons. Each one of the functions in Magic School has these action buttons that will allow you to do continued action. So developing more questions, changing the length, summarizing what you just grabbed, or in this case, translating it. So if you need to translate to, for example, Danish, go ahead and do that, and it'll translate that text for you on the spot. All right, we'll show you one more example of Magic School before moving on. And that example, actually, I'm sorry, 2 more examples. If you do want just a typical open-ended chatbot, they have Raina, which has built it right in, and you can use that very similar to how you use ChatGPT or Gemini and just prompt it with questions. It does give you some example questions you can pop in there. So for example, how can I better engage students during online classes? I'll click that and it'll give me a response, but I could have just freely wrote a prompt in here and interacted with it as any typical AI chatbot. So that's a great feature to know exists. And then there's not just features for teachers, but there's also features for students as well. So Magic School is a SAPA approved tool, and so you can use the entire Magic Student suite here that has a lot of the similar features that the teacher one has, but focused for students. One thing I love is this launch for students option, and this allows you to launch some chat and some AI tools for students without them even necessarily having to log in. So I'm going to click on this launch new room. I'm going to give my new room that I'm about to create a name. I'll call it example room. We'll put it at the 8th grade level, and we'll say we're only going to have 25 students in here. I'm going to hit next, and I can pick any of the built-in chat tools or chatbots or AI tools here. I'm going to pick, Ben had a great idea mentioning historical figures, so I'm going to pick this character chatbot, and I'm going to add it to the room. Now, I can add several different AI bots to this room. For now, I'm just going to pick this one, and I'll hit the next button, and I can actually customize what this chatbot does. So I'm going to say, talk to Honest Abe, and I'm going to make the character or historical figure here Abraham Lincoln. And so I could have left it just open-ended for the students to pick who they're going to chat with, but let's say this is a social studies class and I want students to have an actual chat with Abraham Lincoln. I'm going to set this up and I'm going to run that room, and I can launch it, and students can join it at any time, and they can start talking to Honest Abe. So once I've got that URL, students would then join in, and they're able to interact. Give it a minute to load. And I can ask him, well, I'll hit generate, and it'll start talking to me as if he is Abraham Lincoln, 16th president of the United States. And I'll say, for example, what made you want to be president? And just like Ben demonstrated with Edgar Allan Poe, I can have a conversation with Abe Lincoln and get some background directly from the man himself. So I can continue that conversation as I'd like independently. All right, so that was Magic School, and that was just a small slice of what it's got to offer. But we're going to move on to the second tool, and that second tool is going to be Diffit. Diffit for Teachers is a pretty amazing tool that takes the idea of generating resources for for teachers and for students, and just totally supercharges the lesson planning and unit planning process. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and type in just at the Diffit home screen, it says enter a topic, theme, or question, and I'm just going to type in the Oregon Trail. Those of us of a certain age might remember playing that game as kids. I'm going to click generate resources. Now it takes a few minutes because it's doing a lot more intense work than the last tool that you saw. So I'm actually going to skip ahead to the finished version of what it pops out. Just like that, it's going to pop out for you all the resources you need to run your lesson. It's got an image that it found online, and it'll tell you the source where it got that image. Every so often, it uses AI to generate its own image, so you can choose to use that if you'd like. It gives me a reading passage that it generated, and what I love is that I can click on Show Sources, and it'll actually show citations and show me exactly where it got those sources from, so I can decide if I want to use this or use the parts of it that are from that source. So it takes away some of that mystery black box of where's the AI getting this idea from, and can I trust that what it's saying is accurate, because I can actually check my sources here. I can even edit those sources and regenerate with more or with less than what's there. I can adjust the length, and I can edit, and I can tailor this all of this text to exactly what I need, and then copy paste it somewhere else if need be. It gives me all kinds of great things. A quick summary. Maybe a student was absent and they just need a summary of what they missed. Gives me vocabulary words related to this topic, multiple choice questions, short answer, open-ended prompts, and so on. And if I want to continue on and go into the student activities, you can see it's got all these wonderful graphic organizers that it can then tailor for your specific topic. So Diffit is an amazing tool and a dynamic tool that can quickly create your entire lesson plan on any topic that you'd like, and everything is customizable and able to be exported into the tools that you use every day. So that is Diffit. All right, third and final AI teacher tool I'm going to show is called Curipod. And Curipod is a lesson generation tool as well that focuses on creating presentations. So there's several different things that you can use Curipod for, but the thing it's most known for is generating lessons. So in this case, I'm going to pick the topic. I was a science teacher, so I'm going to be a little biased towards science here, and I'm going to pick moon phases. And let's say that I'm doing this for a 4th grade group. I'm going to click Get Lesson. Once again, rather than watch it all generate from scratch, I'll show you the one that I've already created on this. And so you can see that it generates, this is kind of an outline of all the slides it's going to generate. It's created 14 slides for me, and I can scroll down and see all the content that it put on there. What I love about this is not just that it creates static slides, but it also makes this an interactive activity for students. So students can get on here and actually interact. So for example, on this particular slide, it says draw the moon phases, new moon, waxing crescent, and first quarter. And so I can run this activity. Actually, you guys home or even my fellow co-hosts can jump on if they want. I'm just going to scan. I got my phone up. I'm just going to scan that QR code and put in that code, and I can actually join live. So if you've ever done a Kahoot or anything like that, you're probably pretty familiar with how this works. Okay, and so students can then put their input in. Thank you, those of you who are joining in. I appreciate you. All right, and so you can start entering your data as soon as you're ready. All right. For the sake of time, we won't dig super deep into it, but you guys get the idea. You're able to jump in. There's a lot of slides that it creates. Sometimes it'll give you multiple choice options. Sometimes it'll give you free response. And so you can see all of the options that are available to you, and students can do voting or submitting their answers. All right. What I love about it also is that sometimes it'll actually generate brain breaks and like fun little activities to do in between the slides. And everything is live, as well as an exit ticket at the end that's already built in. All right, so for the sake of time, I'm going to stop there and just recommend giving Curipod a really good shot. If you don't like what it creates from scratch, you can also take your own pre-existing slides and upload them and curify them. which means it'll add in some of those interactive features as well. All right, that was a lightning fast run through 3 really great AI tools, and I hope you take the time to find them out. Do know that they do have their free version and their paid version, and so you might run into, a paywall at some point with some of the features, but I absolutely recommend trying them out because even the free version has a lot of useful things that you can enjoy. That is my time, and so I'm going to pass it on to Emily to take over from here.
All right. Thanks, Eric. Magic School, Diffit, and CarePod are some of my favorite tools. I just dropped in the chat my Google Doc. So I'm going to share here. Oh, let's see here. Why is my screen not sharing? Sorry about this. 1 second. Let's go ahead and share that. All right. You are possibly already on. Here we go. All right. So here we have a doc full of all kinds of things. It's got tons of links, tons of resources for you. These are these new features that came to Google Workspace at the end of the year last year that you probably couldn't pay attention to because you're too busy wrapping up the end of the year, to about right now, September 2024. And so what you're going to see in this chart is when the feature was released, and then also which package of Google that it applies to, because we have the free version of Google, the Education Standard, Teaching and Learning, Education Plus, and then, as Ben kind of discussed, some of those Gemini features are in here as well. So I apologize if you are not a Google school, because this is very Google specific as to some of the things that are happening in the Google Workspace. So I have this kind of broken up by the Google Workspace app. And so Google Drive, just want to kind of share a few things here. And if you're interested, you can always click on the link to learn a little bit more, especially if you're blocked from it. You might need to talk to your IT department, talk them into maybe letting you have some access. But one thing that I love about Drive is that when you upload videos to Drive now, they automatically generate captions that can be translated into multiple languages. So if you have this folder full of all your COVID videos and you have some EL students, you can now have those videos translated. And so that's a pretty cool feature. And then there's some more organizational type things as well. In Sheets, it really deals with formatting, and you can easily convert your kind of boring tables into fancy looking ones with drop downs and all these things. And then they do actually allow multiple drop down chips now, which I love Sheets. So that was kind of an exciting feature. Forms really kind of piggybacks onto the update to Sheets with some of the ways that you can kind of make Sheets more beautiful and functional and make them look nice. Also, speaking about translations, Google Translate, which I feel so many people rely on for translating things, has added some more languages. So that's great to see. Ben dived more into Gemini, so I won't spend too much time here, but that integration of Gemini into the Google Workspace for Education, I think, is going to be huge if people can afford it that way. But it's got some really cool things that it can do with docs and slides, and he showed you one of my favorite things where it can remove that background from a slide. I'm going to spend a little bit more time in Google Classroom. Again, it kind of depends on which package your school has. You get more features, especially in Google Classroom with the Teaching and Learning and Plus packages. But if you are on any of these student information systems, there's a lot more integration. So if you're on Infinite Campus or Skyward, Aspen, you can now have some more things automated. You'd probably need to talk to your tech department, but that's a pretty cool thing. Also, if you are on Teaching and Learning or Plus, you can insert images into your practice sets and do read along in Classroom. Pretty cool features there. And a bunch of different add-ons. So some of our favorite tools like Kahoot and Nearpod can be added into Google Classroom as well. One thing I wanted to actually do a demo of was this new feature in Google Classroom for a missing grade state. I know different districts have different policies on missing grades. You might get to have your own in your classroom. So maybe it's a 0 or maybe it's 50%. In a former district that I worked in, the junior high, for example, if you had a missing grade, it was worth 50%. And so if you click on Google Classroom, you go to Google Classroom, I'll just show you an example here. If I go to grades, you're going to see that the other Emily Flock, the student Emily Flock, got a 60 out of 100 on this particular assignment, and it's flagged as missing. Now, I haven't returned this back to Emily, but when I do, that's when she'll get her grade of 60 out of 100. And this was all automated by the setup, again, this new feature in Google Classroom. And so I'm going to show you kind of how to get to that point. So when you are in Google Classroom and you're in a particular class, if you hit your little settings gear and then you scroll down, you're going to see a section called grading, and it says new here. You can set your default grade. So let's say all missing assignments are 50%. I'm going to save. And then I'm going to go back to grades. And you're going to see this actually changed from 60 to 50% because I changed that there. You're also going to see I'm going to go ahead and add a due date to this particular assignment, because right now it does not have a due date. I'm going to go ahead and go back in time and say that it was due Tuesday. I'm going to go back to my grades, and you're going to see that this automatically, since I made it the deadline, this automatically gave this student a 50. Again, they don't actually receive that grade until you return it, but it does kind of have, it's nice that it flags it missing for you. So that's a new feature of Google Classroom. And then there's also, if you're in Plus, guardians can preview assigned classwork within Google Classroom, which is pretty neat too. Another feature, and I apologize if you don't have teaching and learning in Plus, but I thought this was such an awesome feature in Google Classroom that it was worth sharing. I don't have access to teaching and learning or Plus, so I'll have to show you Google's version of this, but they do a pretty good demo. And while they're showing you, I will kind of talk through it. So you see here, they're in their Google Classroom. You can now create groups. So groups of students in your classroom, they're using the algebra intervention. I think about whenever I was teaching history, I had my really high readers and my really low readers, maybe some students who needed some accommodations, maybe you have some EL students. So now you can group those students. And so that whenever you make assignments, so in this example, they're using extra practice, they can assign it just to that intervention group, and you don't have to try to remember or have like a paper in front of you like, okay, who gets this accommodations or who gets this particular, maybe leveled reading, and then selecting them all. They're just all there for you. So I thought that one was worth sharing if you haven't kind of stumbled onto that one your own. Looking at docs, they have expanded voice typing. And so this has some really cool features. So I'm just going to actually do it down here. So I'm going to go to Tools. I'm going to go to voice typing. You can actually change the language, which again, you can do some great things for your ELs, but this can be for any of your students who might have learning disabilities or physical disabilities where they can't maybe interact with the keyboard as well, or students who are maybe practicing for a speech and want to create a script, or maybe, they just need to kind of think through their thoughts out loud, that kind of thing. You can turn on your mic and then it's going to dictate what I'm saying. And then I can have that script, and I can maybe even have students have conversations. And then I have a little bit of accountability because I can see what they're saying. I think it's interesting too that it didn't include my or pauses. Maybe it will now because they were more distinct, but it's kind of interesting to see how you could use that in the classroom. If you also didn't know, I'm going to mention this one too. Under Tools, right above voice typing, there's the Translate document. This is pretty cool too. You can click it. You can change your language to whatever it is that you might need, translate, and then it makes a copy of that particular Google Doc in the language that you selected. And then it preserves your original. So that's pretty cool too. So that's in Docs. Another great thing, and I put coming soon, it's like rolling out, I think. Some people are getting it, some people aren't, and I'm still not sure. I tried to do some digging on who gets it, whether it's teaching and learning or everybody. But it is really cool because there's kind of a workaround with this try it and use it here link. It's going to make a copy for you. You will now have access to tabs. So this is tabs in Docs. As a teacher, I would love this. I'm going to show you my example here. It kind of works like the tabs at the bottom of Google Sheets, but now it's in Google Docs. And so you can do all kinds of cool things in organization. So I was a history teacher, like I mentioned, so you could do your directions and example on a tab. And then I have my historical context, documents and notes, the rubric for how I'm going to be grading it, and the actual submission area. So this gives you a lot more organization of focus. It can chunk things. So if you're like, we're just talking about the historical context today, the kids kind of have it broken up, and it's not so overwhelming to have this document full of 20 pages for a big assignment such as this. If you make a copy of the item I have highlighted on my doc, I kind of just put some brainstorming ideas on here. And if you use this copy, you have tabs. You could just keep making a copy of this, and then you get to use the tabs, because the tabs are not based on like account or user. And so you can now use the tabs. So it's kind of that little workaround. You can actually also add them in here as well. But some use cases, other than what I just showed you, you could have students certain work, you could have a unit divided up, you could have experiment results findings, you could do some group work, and you can kind of keep people focused, but still have everybody have access to the same information on the same document. So I love the concept of those tabs, and hopefully they'll keep rolling out to more and more people. The last thing I'm going to talk about is Notebook LM. And then the thing with slides kind of relates to Notebook LM is that you can now add slides to Notebook LM. This is where we're bringing in some more artificial intelligence. And so it looks like I'm about done with time here. So I'm going to click on Notebook LM real quick just so that you guys can see. You can put all of your unit documents into your notebook. So I have all my slides like it says you can now do. I have some websites and some docs. And now you have resources that you can interact with the AI. So with a notebook guide, you can actually create frequently asked questions. You can create a study guide. You can create short answers. You can ask questions of the sources. And another really cool thing, which is probably not going to load. I had it loaded right before we came here. Maybe it's here. It will actually create a podcast. Two people going back and forth talking about my resources that I provided to my students. This would be awesome to like listen to at the end of a unit. It's 22 minutes and it covers all the things that are included in this resource guide. Again, I've ran over on my time, so I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Matt, who's going to give us some really great alternatives to Flip.
All right. Well, thank you, Emily. As you all probably know, Flip, or formerly Flipgrid, is now within the walled garden of Microsoft. So if you are one of the few teachers in the state whose district has a Microsoft for Education account, you should still have access to this. But for the rest of us, we need to pour one out for Flip. So in the meantime, we've been trying to figure out some alternatives. Now, the bad news is there is not one single tool yet that does everything that Flip used to do, right? So we have aspects of Flip that can be replicated with some of these other tools. So if you're looking for a one-stop shop, complete replacement, I have not found one yet, but we have found some workarounds. So I'm not going to model these per se, just in the interest of time, but you will have access to these slides and you can go to these sources. You can click on those links and take you there. Some of you may be familiar with Padlet. That's going to give you a little bit more of the community aspect of Flipgrid, where you can create a Padlet, have students upload their own videos, whether it's for show and tell or practice point counterpoint debates. How you used to be able to see everybody's videos in Flip, you can replicate that in Padlet. So that's going to give you more of that aspect for Flip. Other teachers, they used Flip more just to give students an alternative to written assignments, letting them verbally process or kind of explain their learning in video format. So if you are a Teaching and Learning or Plus user with Google in your district, you should have noticed in Google Slides, you now have the option to record within Google Slides. So I worked with a teacher in my area who, at the beginning of the year, would love to have students read a passage on Flip so that she could go through and get a sense of their reading fluency right off the bat in the first week of school. So what we did was she created a Google Classroom assignment, and gave directions on how to record yourself in Google Slides. So she created the slide itself with the text that she wanted students to read, pushed it out to students. They each got their own copy, clicked record, read them or recorded themselves reading the text, and then submitted it right there in Google Classroom. So that helped. If you are somebody who used Flip for that purpose, for that assignment submission piece, as long as you have a Plus subscription in your school district, Google Slides can help kind of be a stopgap for the time being. For something a little bit more comprehensive, I know Book Creator has gotten a lot more popular in the last year or so. And they have an option in there where students can record and embed those videos within their digital books. So this would be great if you have ongoing things that you would have students update, where you wanted to have them record maybe weekly check-ins on how they're doing with their essays, right? So at the end of this week, we focused on introductions. I want you to go in and just have your introduction within a book that you've created, and then record yourself kind of explaining where are you at, what questions do you have, and you kind of have those check-ins. So then at the end, you have one book that has all of those recordings and that writing process built in when the student is done with their essay. So some cool things you can do with that, a little bit different from how some people have used Flip, but it still incorporates that record yourself talking about your learning or your status on a project. The other two tools we're going to touch on here are very similar in that regard. These are more screen recording tools. So if you're somebody who used Flip to have students pull something up on their screen, talk through whether it was a resource you had posted or something they themselves have created, one of the nice things that Flip did was it allowed students to put stickers and kind of customize the videos and add some graphics or drawing tools on top of their video before they submitted it. ScreenPal gives you that option now. So if you really leveraged the student's ability to customize their videos after the fact, within Flip, ScreenPal is going to be a good use for that type of case. And then Screencastify, which many of you might be familiar with, just a general screencasting tool. They have an assignment-based tool now where students can submit screencasts as an assignment, and it organizes it accordingly. If you are on the free plan, it does limit it to you having one active assignment at a time. But if this is something that maybe you just have one assignment posted for the time being, have students do it, and then once you've graded that, that's done, and you want to try it again with a new assignment, then you just close that one out and start up a new assignment. So it looks like we have the comment, you could even have students record the response in their own book in Book Creator and then combine them into one book that the whole class can read. That is a great point. So that is another aspect that Padlet provides with that community aspect where you can see what other people have created and posted. That Book Creator, you can replicate that as well. It won't necessarily be all in one big tile view, but you can have it in one collection. So that's a really great point. Thank you for pointing that out. So with the Screencastify, you have that assignment-based ability to have them submit things for activities or from a grading standpoint. So again, these are some great stopgaps until somebody comes along and replicates Flip in an all-in-one kind of all-encompassing tool. But in the meantime, if you had very particular uses that you were using Flip for that now you don't have access to it anymore, these are some possible substitutions. So again, you should have access to these slides. You can go directly to those links and explore those tools. In the meantime, I'm going to hand things off to Lisa, and she's going to update you on some Canva tools.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Matt. All right. So as you're seeing my screen here, with Canva, there's a lot of good things that Canva has, not only AI tools, but all of the templates that you can use. So I just want to check, are you guys seeing my screen okay? Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So the first one I want to go over is certificates in Canva. So I'm going to go open up Canva. And again, if you don't use Canva or you are paying for Canva, stop paying for Canva. It is free for educators. I was in a workshop, it was probably 2 years ago, and some of the teachers in the workshop loved me because I just saved them $120 a year. They were paying $120 a year for Canva for the pro account. In education, you have access to it for free. And I've got a slide on here to explain the process if your school isn't signed up for it. And it is SOPA approved. And so you don't have to worry about all of that. So the first one with the certificates, all you have to do is type in certificates up here in Canva. And if you're looking for any type of certificates, you can see that these are all free. You don't have to pay for any of these, and you select the one you want. I'm going to show you a science certificate that, let's say we had a science fair and I needed to distribute some science certificates to the students. So select the one I want. In the bottom right-hand corner, come here to customize this template. Now, it's just one certificate right now, but let's say I have several students that I need to issue these certificates to. So then all I have to do is, what I did, I created a Google Sheet and I put in my students' names, put in the teacher, and then put in the principal. So then what I can do is upload this file and it will insert all of the names into the certificate. So then once I hit customize template, and I thought I already did that. Yep, too many tabs open here. Then what I do is bulk create. If you come over here to the left, it's in apps. I already have used it before. So it's over here on the left-hand side and click on bulk create. And what I can do here is then enter the data manually if I so choose, or I can upload it. And if you look at the very bottom here, I have 3 different types of files I can upload. I'm going to upload a CSV file. So click upload and I go and find my file here. And then what I have to do is connect the data. So right here where it says name, I'm going to right click here on this text box and connect the data there. And I want the names to go there. Okay. Then down here to the subject teacher, we've got Miss DeYoung here is the teacher. I connect the data there and select teacher. Then right click on the principal name and connect the data, and I'll select principal. And why did I have those 3 different data points? Is that's what's on the certificate, and then that's what I made sure was also in the spreadsheet there. And then I just, on the left-hand side, click continue. And then with a matter of minutes, I've got my, in this case, 4 certificates. So we've got Ben, Emily, Eric, and Matt all having their science certificates. Free, didn't have to pay for someone else creating the certificate for me. Now, if there's something on the certificate that I wanted to make changes to, I could, but if I liked all the pictures, I liked everything on there, then I would make changes. But, you know, one change, if you see here, science class this school year, 2022 to 2023, yes, I would want to make sure I update that. You have editing rights for it all. So then the next thing on the slide deck we have is the magic design video. I will tell you, I am not good at making, taking time to make videos. Well, now I can be, and I'm just trying to get to this project. So all I have to do then to create a video is go to create a design, and if I want it to be a YouTube video or a TikTok video, select what I want it to be. And then once I select that, then all I have to do, it says generate videos instantly. So I can select that on the left-hand side. If I went too fast, it was here on the left-hand side, generate videos instantly. And then scroll down, here's the videos or the pictures I've uploaded. I'll select some of the boys and their high school activities. And then it says describe the kind of video you want. So I'm just going to say this is high school memories. for the time's sake here today, but I can go into more detail here. And then in the bottom right-hand corner, click generate. And right away, within less than a minute, I have a video being generated because I didn't add too many photos there. And then once that video is generated, I can edit that if I so choose. But just for time's sake, if I go ahead and play it, here's the video that was created within less than a minute. And as you can see, it wasn't perfect. So I would have to go back and edit some of that because it didn't show the faces. And then it said I met my sweetheart on the basketball team. So some of the different things in there, I can go back in and edit. But again, that took a lot less time and wasn't as intimidating to create. So that was the Magic Design video there. And then the next one here, we've got Magic Media. So again, when you are going into Canva and you want to create, again, a Facebook post, Instagram post, or just creating a picture, over on the left-hand side, I've got Magic Media there. And again, just like some of the other AI tools out there, you can describe what you would like to create as far as photos. Up here on the tabs, you can have images or graphics or even videos. And, it says enter 5+ words to describe. So let me say create sunset scene in the mountains. And even if I misspell a word, again, it does have spell check. I can correct it if I want, but I'm going to show you, I'll just keep it there and we'll see what the AI tool does. And then again, this is, even though I didn't put it in the prompt, it helps me filter down my prompt. Is there a particular style I want? Let's just say, how about dreamy? And then again, I've got the aspect ratio here. And then again, within usually less than a minute, it'll create 4 different images for me to choose from. And this is Magic Media within Canva. And then let me show you one other thing before my time is up. There, on this slideshow here, I've got some other images. They've got Magic Studio. What I like about Magic Studio is in this workshop with some teachers, I did get permission from the teachers to use this photo to show their faces here. Let's say these were students or they had their cell phone out here. And in this case, what you could do is you could, here on the right-hand side photo, you can go and use some of the Magic Studio tools in Canva. And some of the Magic Studio tools in Canva are, let me just show you this picture. I've got uploaded a picture in here already. If I click on edit up here, here are all the tools in Magic Studio that you can use. You can remove the background, just like Ben showed you on Google Slides, how you can remove the background. You have this here within Canva as well. The one I like, especially with working with students, let's say for some reason, these two aren't friends anymore, you can do Magic Grab. And what the Magic Grab will do is grab one of the people in the photo, and then you could actually remove them if you so choose. So again, within a few seconds, it does its magic. And then right now here, I can remove Blake from the photo. And then I could go back in and clean up the photo because as you can see, you can still see his hand around Josie's waist there. So if you haven't had time to check out Magic Studio, put in a picture that means something to you and maybe play around with it to see how you can magically make things disappear or appear. So again, you'll have the slide deck here to see some other tools within Canva, and feel free to reach out if you have any further questions. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, everyone, so much for being here today. And thank you to everyone who is in the audience as well. So I just wanted to open up the comments. If anyone has any questions for our presenters today for our RETCs, please drop those in the chat and I can go ahead and monitor that. Just a reminder that you will receive PD credit today for attending our webinar. That'll be sent to you shortly after, within like 24 hours or so. We'll be sending that information your way, so check your email for that. But yeah, let's just wait a minute for any comments or questions to come through the chat here. I had no idea about the Notebook LM, Emily. No idea.
Yeah.
Like the podcast feature? No idea.
I learned it from Emily Poole. And so when I heard it, I was just like, oh my gosh, it's kind of creepy. It does sound like two people talking back and forth.
Yeah, that is, I've used it before to like analyze different documents and like create summaries between documents, things like that. But I haven't played with it in a minute, and it seems like they've already updated and bolstered like all of their features within Notebook LM. So that was really cool. All right. Well, I don't see anyone popping into the chat here, so I'm going to go ahead and say that we're going to go ahead and close down today's webinar. But thank you to everyone who attended today. And if you have any questions, please reach out to us at the LTC, and we hope to see you on a future webinar. If you are interested, you can go to ltc.site/webinars, where we have all of our webinars and upcoming ones listed there. So feel free to register for any ones coming up in the future. Otherwise, have a great rest of your night. Oh, we do have a question. Laura said, are there slides for each presenter? Yes, I dropped a few of them in the chat here, so you can grab them. Otherwise, I can also send out an email afterwards to give the slides to everyone who attended today. All right. Thank you, everyone in the chat. I appreciate it. All right. Bye, RTCs. Thank you so much for being with me today.